Chapter 31. I'm not an idiot. Amy woke to a whooshing sound. It was Raoul outside the turbochaser winding up the tent. The coloured cloth was funneling back inside the chimney, which meant that Amy suddenly felt a bit exposed lying on some glass plates in the open air in the middle of a field. She rubbed her eyes. What time is it? Go away, said Jack, who normally said that when woken up. In fact, he normally said it over and over and over again until forced out of bed much later by Mum Susie. Amy looked out. The sun, which had come up a while ago, was bright against the morning sky. The field they were in was very green. In her vision, Raoul suddenly appeared, holding something rolled up. It looked like a poster. What is that? Said Amy. Raoul unrolled it. It was a long piece of paper, more like a banner than a poster, and on it he had written, "The Crazy Car Rally, somewhere in Scotland or bust." He had drawn a series of doodles around these words of various crazy-looking cars. Amy nodded. Then she said, "I'll ask again. What is that?" "I've made up an event," said Raoul. "The Crazy Car Rally. And if I put this up somewhere on the car, people who see us on the road will think, oh, right, I see. It's a crazy car going to some sort of crazy car event. And then they won't think about it anymore. It's sort of like an invisibility cloak, except not." "Okay, I get it. That's brilliant, pretty clever." "Thanks," said Raoul, and he started attaching the banner to the front of the car. "Why so many exclamation marks?" said Amy. "Well, that's what you do if you're the kind of person who goes to crazy car rallies. You use a lot of exclamation marks to show how crazy you are." "Right, I'll bear that in mind. Okay, I think we should be getting back. Jack, go away." "Oh, come on, Jack. What's for breakfast?" More of Janet's beans?" "Go away." Raoul started folding up the glass plates, which involved Jack rolling over onto his side. "I said go away." Amy sighed. "Okay, we'll come back to you. Janet!" Janet popped her head out of her sleeping bag. "I was awake already, just under the covers." "Great," said Amy. "Because it's easier to see my phone in here. It's too light out there." "Right. Have you got signal in there?" "Some of the time." "Anyone for beans?" "Bleep, bleep." Janet dived back into her sleeping bag. "Well," said Raoul. "Jack's still asleep." "I'm not." "Oh, go away." "Right. But I folded up the car. The tent material has gone back into the chimney, so we could have breakfast and then..." "Janet," said Amy, who had spent the last few minutes thinking and frowning at Janet's sleeping bag. "Yes," she said, muffled from inside. "Who are you texting?" "Mum and Dad," she said. Raoul, who was getting into the passenger seat, stopped and looked at her. Jack, who had had his eyes closed and who had been doing his very best not to wake up properly, opened them and sat up. Since when?" said Jack. "Oh, well, I sent them a text last night," said Janet, "but they haven't replied yet, so..." "Oh no," said Raoul. "What?" said Janet. And Amy said, "What are you saying in your messages now?" Janet's head came out of the sleeping bag again. Oh, don't worry. Just that we're okay and having a great time being chased by bulls and stuff. I'm not telling them where we are. I'm not an idiot. Actually, where are we? I'm not entirely sure, said Raoul. But you could probably find out, said Jack, from location services on your phone, as could anyone else who's in contact with your phone. Certainly anyone who, I don't know, brought your phone for you and has access to your account. Not to mention, said Raoul, anyone who's had a message since last night. So could have been tracking us for a while. There was a pause. Janet frowned at him. Then she looked at her phone. Oops, she said. Chapter 32, Waving Goodbye. Just drive, said Raoul. Do we know how near they are? Said Jack. Bleep, bleep. Oh, said Janet, it's them. It says, do not move. We are coming to get you. We will be there in an hour. Drive, 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 said Raoul. 5 minutes later, they were on the road, not just on their way, which is what on the road can sometimes mean, but actually on a proper road again. No longer driving through fields. It was only a country lane, but still there were other cars on it, which meant that they were getting some very funny looks from passengers driving by. Although one at least did shout, "Enjoy the crazy car rally!" You're going to have to turn your phone off, Janet, said Amy. What? Said Janet anxiously. You are, said Raoul. But I won't text anymore, she said anxiously. It doesn't matter, said Jack. If your phone's on, they'll be able to trace us. But I never turn my phone off, Janet said, looking as anxious as she probably could. Well, what do you do when the power goes off? Said Jack. Well, I make sure it never runs out of power. How? By keeping it plugged in. Where? In a PowerPoint. Right, Janet. How can I put this? Said Jack. Right now, are we in a house? With PowerPoints? Or are we in a ridiculous contraption, sort of a car, sort of a fish tank on wheels, but definitely without PowerPoints? Oh, actually, said Raoul, I could probably fix up a... Don't even go there. Don't offer her a power source, said Amy. Okay, said Raoul. Seriously, Janet, you're going to have to turn your phone off, said Amy. All right, shouted Janet. She held up her phone in the air. Her thumb hovered over the off button. Her eyes appeared to fill with tears. Goodbye, she whispered. Really? Said Jack. I think it's au revoir. I don't speak German, said Janet. It's Jack, said Amy. Let her turn it off. Let her turn it off, he repeated in his most stupid voice. Janet held up her phone again. Goodbye. I love you. Oh, my days, said Jack. Shh, said Amy. Closing her eyes, Janet pressed her thumb against the side of the phone. The screen went to a smiley face icon with little hands waving goodbye. Janet, who had clearly never seen it before, waved back, brushing away the tears that had now come. The screen went black. Screamed Janet. My phone! My phone! Anyway, said Amy, looking ahead, we've got another problem. Chapter 33. Via Big Fart Moor. They all looked up. They had driven into a village. It was rather a lovely place called, unfortunately, Great Little Piddlington. Said Jack. Great Little Piddlington. Yes, hugely funny, said Amy, but also hugely long traffic jam right up ahead. Amy put the brakes on, the Turbochaser stopped. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. Not up ahead, right now. Raoul rummaged under his seat. He got out a pair of binoculars with a telescope stuck on them. What's that? Said Jack. It's called a binoculoscope. When did you make that? Oh, I didn't make this one. I bought it from Sam Green and he made it. Raoul put his head through the cat flap and put the binoculoscope to his eyes. Then he came back in again. I think there's some sort of roadworks up ahead, right in the middle of the village. It looks like this is going to go on forever. Try the sat-nav. Maybe there's a different way. Or I could turn my phone back on and look at a map, said Janet. No, it's okay, Janet, said Amy. She hit the sat-nav screen. You are in a traffic jam. Turn around. Please save yourself. ETA at your destination is now Monday afternoon. Monday afternoon, said Jack. That's far too late. Yeah. Also, what is that voice setting? Said Amy as she hit the sat-nav again. Okay. I think we might have to find a different method of beating this traffic jam. Have we moved in the last 10 minutes? Said Jack, only with laughter. Oh no, said Amy, who suddenly remembered it was now Saturday and they needed to be there by Sunday. It's getting on for midday. Time is slipping by. We could try this, said Raoul. What? Here. His finger was over a button. I created it as sort of like a parking thing. You know, if we needed to narrow the car up a bit to get into a small space. But I guess we could use it here. He turned round to Jack and Janet. Just a warning, it might get a little bit cramped in the back when I do this. Jack and Janet frowned. Raoul pressed the button. The car made a kind of grounding noise, and then the chassis began to move. It expanded forward and backwards, but getting, as it did so, thinner. What's happening? Said Janet. Crushed, shouted Jack. I'm getting crushed by the insides of a car. I don't want to die. Oh, for goodness sakes, you're not going to die, said Raoul, which was correct. The internal movement of the car stopped, leaving it, well, less like a square and more like a diamond, with Amy at the front and everyone else sitting behind her. The steering wheel had changed too. 2 tubular handles had popped out of the sides of it. The whole thing now looked more like a motorbike. You've made it into a kind of motorbike, said Amy. Raoul looked pleased. He pointed at the button, which had a drawing of a motorbike. That's pretty amazing, said Jack. Thank you. By the way, Jack, because you know I'm not very good at spotting it, when you were screaming back then, I don't want to die, was that you being sarcastic? Oh yes, Raoul, said Amy, interrupting and seeing that Jack had gone a little bit red. I'm sure it was. Jack gave her a smile and she smiled back. Well, that was quite exciting. I loved how with one button the car turned from a car into a motorbike. That's a pretty cool button. What's your favourite mode of transport? Do you like flying in aeroplanes Or maybe you like going in boats on the sea. If you could travel any way, what would it be? Draw us a picture and send it in. Take care, everybody, and stay safe. Bye.